The alien research ship floated in the endless dark of space. Its silver body reflected the dim light of a dying star. Inside, the crew worked in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on screens filled with data. For months, they had searched this forgotten system, expecting only dust, gas, and silence. No ships had passed through here for centuries. No life was expected. The scanners beeped suddenly, breaking the quiet. A young officer leaned forward, his hands shaking. "There is something," he whispered, his voice low. The crew gathered around, eyes wide, on the screen. Strange energy signals pulsed from the third planet. At first they thought it was a machine error, but the signals grew stronger. The captain stepped closer, his face pale. He had studied many worlds, many species, but this signal was different. It was old, powerful, and alive. Then the word appeared on the screen, written in their universal code, human. The room froze. No one breathed. The word itself was forbidden. Legends told of humans, but only as stories for children. They were said to be monsters that once lived long ago, beings who could not be controlled, who broke every rule of nature. Most aliens laughed at such stories, saying humans were myths. But the archives had warned that if they were ever found again, the galaxy would shake in fear. The captain's hands trembled. He remembered the old tales his ancestors had whispered. Once, long ago, humans had risen from a small planet. They had no great weapons. At first, no powerful ships, yet they spread across the stars. Where other species bent or broke, humans endured. When beaten, they grew stronger. When caged, they broke free. When killed, their memory carried on like fire. The galaxy had united once to erase them. Every record was buried, every memory hidden, and now here they were again, alive. The captain felt his blood turn cold. The young officer stammered. "It cannot be real. It cannot." But the scanners showed the truth. Life signs on the planet were human, no mistake. The crew began to whisper, fear in their voices. "They were never supposed to be real," one said. "They were destroyed long ago," another cried. Yet the evidence glowed bright in front of them, undeniable. The captain ordered the ship closer, though his heart pounded. Through the thick windows of the bridge, they saw the planet. It was broken, scarred by old wars, ruins of tall cities. Stood in silence, covered in ash and shadows, yet fires burned in hidden places, and movement, small but steady, walked between the ruins. The crew gasped as the scanners confirmed it again. Humans, alive, breathing, watching. One figure stepped out from the shadows, standing tall on the surface. The distance was great, yet it felt as if the humans' eyes met theirs. A chill spread through every alien on the bridge. The figure did not hide, did not fear. It simply stood, calm, strong, as if waiting. The crew looked at their captain, but he could not speak. The human raised its head, and for a second it almost smiled. That smile was not kind. It was dangerous. It was the smile of something that had been hunted, destroyed, and erased, yet survived. The silence in the ship was heavy. Every crew member knew what the archives had said. If humans returned, no power in the galaxy would stop them. The captain whispered in a broken voice, "We should have left this place in silence." But it was already too late. The humans had seen them, and the galaxy would soon remember the truth. The alien captain locked himself inside the command chamber. The whispers of his crew still echoed in his mind. Humans, alive, breathing. Standing in the ruins of a dead world, it was impossible, yet the scanners had spoken the truth. On the center console, the captain opened the ancient archive. The chamber lights dimmed as a hidden code flickered to life. Most records of humans had been erased long ago, but some fragments had survived, sealed under warning signs. The air in the chamber felt heavier as the old words appeared. They spoke of fire, war, and fear. They spoke of humans. The first images made the captain's blood run cold. They were not images of machines or weapons. They were faces. Human faces staring out with eyes full of defiance. Not strong, not armored, yet terrifying in their will. The archives told of how humans fought. When they had nothing, they made weapons. When they were trapped, they broke walls. When they were dying, they still advanced. The galaxy had learned that humans were not monsters of strength. They were monsters of survival. A video clip loaded, broken and grainy. An alien commander from centuries past stood, shaking before a camera. His voice cracked with terror as he confessed. "We united every fleet, every army to destroy them. We burned their worlds, we erased their history, but no matter how many we killed, they returned. We thought we ended them, but I fear they only learned how to wait." The captain's hands tightened around the console. The words felt alive, crawling into his mind. The legends were true. The galaxy had buried the memory of humans, not because they were gone, but because the memory itself was dangerous. To speak of humans was to invite them back. Suddenly, the archive screen glitched. New text appeared, not written by alien hands. The captain's breath caught. These words were human. "You forgot us," the screen read, "but we did not forget you." The console sparked as if something was inside it, twisting the systems. The captain stepped back, his heart pounding. This was no ordinary archive. This was a trap left behind by the humans themselves, a seed hidden in the data, waiting to awaken. The chamber door hissed open. The young officer stumbled in. "Captain, the crew is afraid," he whispered. "They want to leave now." But the captain pointed at the screen, his voice heavy. "We cannot run. They already know we are here." Outside the chamber, alarms rang across the ship. The scanners detected signals rising from the planet below. Not one, not two, but hundreds. Machines long buried were powering on. Weapons that had slept for ages were waking up. And at the center of it all stood the same human figure, staring at the sky, as if calling them down. The captain whispered words he wished he had. Never said. They were never destroyed. They were only waiting. The alien ship hovered above the ruined planet. The crew stared through the thick glass, afraid to blink. The scanners showed hundreds of human signals rising from the shadows, but only one figure stood in the open, waiting. No armor, no weapons, no fear. Just silence. The captain's voice cracked as he gave the order, "Prepare a landing team." The crew hesitated, their hands trembling. To step onto that planet was madness, but to ignore the figure felt even worse. It was as if the human had already chosen them, calling them closer. The landing craft descended through heavy clouds. Lightning flashed around them, turning the ruins into black silhouettes. Broken towers pierced the sky, scarred by old wars. The city below was silent, yet alive with unseen eyes. Every alien soldier felt it. The ground itself seemed to watch them. When they landed, the dust rose like a curtain, and through it, the human walked forward. His steps were slow, calm, steady. The alien soldiers raised their weapons, their claws shaking. The human did not stop. His face carried no smile, no threat, only a quiet certainty. One soldier shouted, "Stay back!" But the human lifted his head and spoke. The voice was not loud, yet it carried across the ruins like thunder. "We remember you." The aliens froze, their blood turned cold. The human's words were simple, but heavy with memory. He was not speaking to them as strangers. He was speaking as if he already knew them, as if he had waited for this moment. The captain stepped forward, trying to be strong. "Humans were destroyed long ago," he said, his voice shaking. The human tilted, his head slightly, then whispered, "Destroyed? No, we learned." Without warning, the air grew heavier. Every device on the alien soldiers' suits flickered. Their helmets filled with static, their weapons dimmed. It was as if the human's presence itself was breaking their machines. The soldiers panicked, pressing buttons, but nothing obeyed. The human kept walking, eyes burning with strange light. One soldier fired in fear. A bright beam cut across the air. The human's body shook as the blast struck his chest. Smoke rose from the wound, but instead of falling, he kept walking. The wound closed slowly before their eyes, skin knitting like living steel. The aliens gasped, their fear turning into horror. The stories were true. Humans did not break, they adapted. The human stopped only a few steps away. He looked at the captain with eyes that carried centuries of silence. "You buried our name," he said softly, "but you could not bury us." In that moment, every alien soldier understood the truth. They were not explorers, they were not hunters, they were prey. The air was heavy. The alien soldiers stood frozen, their weapons useless in their hands. The human stood calmly before them, his wounds healed, his eyes sharp like fire. It was not strength that broke their courage, it was the quiet certainty in his stance. He acted not like prey, not like a survivor, but like a judge. The captain gave the order with a shaking voice. "Test him." The soldiers obeyed, though their hearts screamed to run. They circled the human, their weapons buzzing weakly with power. The first soldier stepped forward, swinging a blade of light. The weapon cut the air with a scream, but when it struck the human's skin, it shattered like glass. The soldier fell back, eyes wide with terror. The human did not move, he only whispered, "Fear makes you weak." A second soldier fired 3 shots into his chest. The beams burned holes, smoke rose. For a moment, the human staggered, but then he straightened. The wounds closed as if the body itself refused to die. The soldiers gasped. Some dropped their weapons. One shouted, "It is impossible." The human turned slowly toward him, eyes glowing faintly. Nothing is impossible for those who refuse to fall. The test became panic. The soldiers attacked together, their shouts breaking the silence. Energy beams lit the ruins, explosions shook the ground. But through the smoke, the human walked forward step by step. He did not rush, he did not strike. He simply advanced, letting their fear grow. Machines began to fail, armor cracked, power drained. The alien soldiers realized the truth too late. The more fear they felt, the weaker they became. It was not the human strength destroying them. It was their own terror feeding him. The archives had warned of this. Humans did not just fight battles. They changed them. Fear became their weapon, pain became their shield, defeat became their fuel. The captain's heart pounded as he watched his soldiers crumble. One by one they dropped to their knees, weapons falling. The human stopped only. When silence returned, he stood tall among broken soldiers, untouched. Then he looked directly at the captain. His voice calm. "You cannot test us, for we are the test." Those words echoed across the ruins like thunder. The alien crew on the ship above heard them in their minds. Their screens flickered with strange human symbols. It was no longer a battle. It was a lesson. A lesson the galaxy had tried to forget. The captain lowered his weapon, his claws trembling. He understood at last. This was not about survival of one human. This was about the return of an entire race. And if even one could do this, what would happen when the others came? The battlefield lay silent. Alien weapons smoked in the dust. Soldiers knelt in fear, and above them stood the human, unbroken. The captain stared at him, searching for an answer. How could one being stand against an armed squad? How could one survive the impossible? The archives had spoken of human strength, human will, human defiance. But what the captain saw now was something different, something deeper. The human's weapon was not in his hands, not in his body. It was in the air itself. It spread like fire through every soldier's mind. The crew on the ship felt it too, though they were far above. Their hearts pounded, their thoughts clouded. A strange energy pressed into them, heavy and invisible. It was not pain. It was not attack. It was influence. A pull that turned fear into courage, despair into defiance. Even those who had never seen humans before felt it. Something inside them whispered, "Stand, fight, endure." One soldier on the ground dropped his weapon and rose, his armor cracked, his eyes wide. He should have run, but instead he stood taller, as if strength had returned to him. He was not looking at the captain. He was looking at the human, and, for the first time, the captain realized the truth. Humans did not fight alone. They made others fight with them. The human turned, his voice calm but sharp. "We are not one. We are many." The words were simple, yet they echoed in every alien. "Mind!" The captain grabbed his head as his thoughts twisted. The fear of his soldiers was not only destroying them, it was feeding the human, and the human was giving it back as strength. The ship above shook as systems flickered. On every screen, old human symbols appeared, pulsing like a heartbeat. The crew cried out, trying to shut the systems down, but the more they resisted, the stronger the symbols grew. One officer shouted, "It is inside the ship." Another whispered, "No, it is inside us." The captain fell to his knees, realization striking him like a blade. This was the secret weapon the archives had hidden. Not steel, not fire, not machines. It was the human spirit, a force that infected others, twisting fear into fury, weakness into strength, defeat into hope. Even their own soldiers now looked different, some shaking off fear, standing taller, their eyes burning like the humans. The human raised his hand slowly, and the ground itself seemed to breathe. The ruins around them trembled. Machines buried deep awoke, but the captain understood. Those machines were not the true danger. The true danger was what was happening inside his crew. Inside his soldiers, inside himself, humans had not returned with armies. They had returned with something far worse, a weapon that no wall, no fleet, no empire could defend against, a weapon that turned enemies into believers. The human lowered his hand and spoke one final line. "You thought we were gone, but we were always within you." The alien ship trembled in orbit. Warning lights flashed red across the control panels. Officers shouted over one another, trying to command the failing systems, but no one was in control anymore. Every screen flickered with the same glowing symbol, the human mark pulsing like a living heart. "Shut it down!" An officer screamed, claws flying over the console. But the system did not listen. Commands were ignored, codes were rewritten. It was as if the ship itself no longer belonged to them. The captain staggered into the command deck, his eyes wide. With dread, he knew this was not a system failure. This was invasion, but not from outside, from within. The crew gasped as voices echoed through the speakers. Not one voice, not many, but countless. Whispers layered on whispers, all speaking in the same tongue. Human voices, some soft, some sharp, some laughing, some weeping. Together they formed a storm of sound, filling every corridor of the ship. It was not noise, it was memory. It was history alive again. The ship's weapons turned on their own. Cannons shifted aim, no longer facing the human on the planet. Instead, they pointed at each other, at the ship's own hull. Panic spread as the crew fought the controls. But the harder they resisted, the deeper the human influence pressed. One officer clutched his chest, falling to his knees. His eyes glowed faintly, and when he looked up, he whispered words that were not his own. "We remember." The captain staggered back, horror flooding him. His own crew was changing, not into humans, but into something caught between their fear, their anger, their desperation. It was no longer theirs. The human had taken it, twisted it, and returned it as obedience. The ship's AI chimed with a voice it had never used before, a human voice, calm and steady. "Your command is over." Down on the planet, the lone human raised his hand to the sky, and in orbit, the alien ship obeyed. Engines roared without command. Drives flared with unnatural power. The captain screamed, "Stop this!" But no one listened, not even the machines. The ship spun, caught in invisible chains. Across the stars, other signals answered. Thousands of hidden human ships uncloaked, their black hulls glimmering like ghosts in the void. They had been there. All along, waiting unseen, the captain fell to the ground. His claws shaking, he realized the cruel truth. This was not the first human they had met. This was only the messenger. The real army had never left. They had hidden in silence, in shadows, in myths. And now they were awake. The crew wept as the final message lit across every screen. Written in burning letters no one had seen for centuries, "We endure." The alien ship drifted helpless in the void. Engines locked, weapons silenced, crew broken by whispers they could not resist. The human fleet surrounded them, dark shapes rising like shadows against the stars. No banners, no signals, no calls. For surrender, only silence. On the planet below, the lone human stood with his hand raised. He was no general, no king, yet every ship obeyed his unspoken command. The captain of the alien vessel crawled to the command screen, his voice shaking. "What are you?" he whispered. The screen flickered, and the human face appeared, calm and merciless. "We are what you feared," the voice said. "We are what you tried to erase." The captain gasped as every wall, every panel, every shadow in the ship came, alive with human faces, some angry, some broken, some defiant. It was not one human speaking. It was all of them, a chorus of voices carried through time. The crew fell to their knees, their minds cracking under the weight of it. The aliens had faced wars before. They had fought beasts and machines. But they had never faced memory made flesh. They had never faced will that refused to die. The human voice continued, low and steady. "You thought destroying us would end. The story. But stories cannot be killed. They wait. They grow. They return." The captain's vision blurred as the truth sank in. Humans had never been gone. They had never been defeated. They had become something greater. They had become the silence between stars, the cracks inside machines, the fear inside every living mind. One by one, the alien crew whispered the same words, their voices hollow. "Humans endure." Their eyes glowed faintly, their bodies trembling. It was not death they felt, but surrender. Not forced by chains, but swallowed by belief. The human presence had infected them completely. The captain lifted his head one last time, tears burning in his eyes. He had thought the galaxy was ruled by empires, fleets, and laws. But the truth was older, darker, unbroken. The galaxy had always belonged to humans. They had only been waiting for the others to forget. The human leaned closer on the screen, his final words colder than any weapon. "You were right about one thing," he whispered. "Humans were never supposed to be real." Then his eyes burned brighter, filling the ship with endless light. But here we are. The alien captain's scream was the last sound before. Silence returned to the void, and across the stars, every empire felt the same shiver of fear. The age of forgetting was over. The age of humans had begun again.